AwardsWatch listeners and readers. This is episode 168 of the AwardsWatch Podcast. We're here to talk about Sundance today. Just wrapped up a couple of days ago, or actually it's wrapping up right now, online at least. I am your executive editor, Ryan McQuade. Joining me today is our editor-in-chief, Erik Anderson.
It's a me.
Is that going to be your intro every week until that movie comes out?
I don't think it was last week. I
think it was like last week.
Hello, or something. I don't know.
It's a me, a Mario. Okay. Yeah. And joining us is Kevin Lee.
Hey.
We all got to see a ton of Sundance movies. I'm actually curious from the get-go, did you guys watch a movie outside of Sundance titles already to kind of cleanse your palate of all these new movies that we saw? Kevin?
I did. I didn't watch that many Sundance movies to begin with. I had some other work that I had to do in parallel with it. But yeah, like after seeing a ton of independent films from Sundance, like I needed a palate cleanser. And so the first movie I saw after Sundance, surprisingly, was I rewatched Kiki's Delivery Service, which I've seen before, obviously, but I haven't seen it in years. And wow, so good. It's a movie that I've always enjoyed, but this rewatch, I think it's top 3 Miyazaki.
Yeah, it's still my favorite Miyazaki. Erik, is it have you seen Kiki in a long time?
A very, very, very long time.
Yeah, it's also a good, fresh start for, Kevin, of the rewatches, because we're going to have a new Miyazaki film potentially maybe come out later this year. So it's get on that early and often. I know I'll be doing one. Yeah, I'm going to be doing a lot of his rewatches over the next couple of months. Erik, did you cleanse your palate of anything, or are you still watching Sundance movies?
I just finished my last Sundance movie this morning. But no, that's all I've been watching other than just some random television.
Yeah. I think the only thing that was in between my Sundance watches this week was I watched the second episode of The Last of Us, and that was and it's been good so far. Supposedly the episode tonight is supposed to be amazing. We'll have some content up on the website for it.
I'm telling you,
it's going to be a game.
It's going to already have been seen by this, but nobody's ready. No one is ready for this.
Nobody's ready for it. We'll have some stuff on the website. Like I said, our TV editor Tyler Doster has some stuff, and but you'll already have seen it by now by the time you're listening
hopefully
to this and everything. But yeah, I've got some movies lined up this week, but we're not here to talk about old releases or things to palate cleanse. We're here to talk about Sundance films. But before we get into Sundance, we got to do a little bit of follow-up from last week. Last week, we had the wonderful Mark Johnson join us during the week to talk about the Oscar nominations. And we had an Oscar nomination that we spent some time on the show talking about a lot.
I'm sure you did.
Well, you kind of had to. It was about the, Andrea Riseborough of it all. And it's been the one that's been dominating the conversation. Well, we've had a little bit of follow-up news since, is that the Academy is doing an investigation. They didn't specifically announce that it was about Andrea Riseborough or To Leslie, but we can clearly, we're all adults here and smart enough to think that that's exactly what they're sort of talking about. There's been a lot of conversations about the awards campaign and how these tactics were, sort of done in order to get this nomination. But Erik, I'm just curious from your perspective, covering this, reading this, all this stuff that we've been talking about throughout the week, at least you and I through text and whatnot. Where do you think we're at right now? Do you think anything's going to happen from this? I don't think anything really is significant is going to happen to this, at least for Riseborough and pulling the nomination, like some people online are suggesting might happen. It's rumor. It's all rumors and speculation at this point, but we don't know what they're going to do, right?
No, we definitely don't. We just know they're having a meeting about it on Tuesday, the Board of Governors. And from then, they'll make some type of decision or non-decision. It's a weird thing that the way that it blew up and what the core elements of it really are about, because there definitely is some exposing of the cracks in campaigning and how things work.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also many people who, like I said on Twitter, suddenly became experts overnight of how campaigns work and don't work, the legalities, the rules, all of those things. And, threw all kinds of things out like, oh, yeah, well, then why does Diane Warren get a nomination every year? I'm like, well, it's because you don't understand how branch voting works. What about Harvey Weinstein? Why, blah, blah. Again, it's so funny reading and hearing people kind of go on and on without really knowing and understanding the bones and the history and the longevity of rules and campaigning and what you can and can't do, and that it's changed over decades. And the thing that's different with this than something else is kind of how weirdly open it all was.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason why it's being targeted, because the way that Francis Fisher and everybody around that part of the campaign that was just kind of suddenly out of nowhere doing all of this campaigning, you just started, having to kind of look through the cracks and doing a follow the money, which is still up in the air because we don't really know. Narrative and Shelter PR were behind the campaign, and there's still a lot that has to kind of be divulged and found out. But this is different than things in the past, because it was so open, and the information being social media, what it is, so available and right there. It's very different having a behind closed doors meeting, party, event, bribery, whatever you want to call it, versus something that is very, very open for everybody to see.
Yeah. I mean, this has like the skeletons and the bones of something like a Damien Bashir, in my opinion, at least, of something where we heard a lot of chatter at that time about George Clooney, Julia Roberts, a lot of A-list stars really pushing and trying to get Bashir a nomination, and it ultimately worked out in his favor to be one of those 5 within the 2011 lineup, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but that started in the summertime.
No, I agree.
Came out.
So, no, I agree. That's why I'm saying it's just like the bones and kind of like we've seen bits of this before. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like the idea of a performance carrying all the way from early in the season, like even like a Richard Jenkins, for example, for like the Visitor, is a movie that was critically acclaimed, came out of Sundance. A lot of people really loved it, and it kind of swept and kind of carried through by passion to get there for a veteran actor. And we see this happen every now and then. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It was targeted, that's for sure. I agree with you. I think the openness now and kind of stepping back from the raw emotion of last week and really looking at everything here is that it was a strategic, smart campaign that, like you said, Eric, exposes how, if you really want to do something like this, having the connections and doing it within the 5-day window might be something that, that no one's on the unwritten rule side done before, but they certainly finally attempted it here. And
that's the thing, is that part, at least about it, there's nothing really wrong about it. It's just like if you go to a fireworks show and you hit the button that all of them go off at the same time.
Yeah.
Instead
of like one at a time every 5 minutes.
And that's what happened. And it doesn't mean that this is going to be able to happen every year. But yeah, whatever happens on Tuesday, my best educated guess is that nothing will happen with the nomination or with Riseborough, but Francis Fisher, who is a member of the Academy, will probably be the fall guy and get like a 1-year suspension, because Rule 11 is pretty strict and pretty clear, and it was her violation of naming names was very obvious and very there.
I mean, Eric, if I'm not mistaken, and don't mean to cut you off, but if I'm not mistaken, for Riseborough's sake, they have to have proof of her doing that in order to strip the nomination away, correct?
don't
Right? Is
think
that
so,
the
but I
rule?
think that's why she's safe, essentially.
Because she wasn't the one targeting and putting this out on social media. She was just going to screenings. Essentially, it was her
Yeah,
team maybe in the studio.
she's essentially kind of been a bystander in her own campaign, which
Mhm.
speaks to its own campaign, which is kind of funny. But in terms of like rescinding a nomination, we've got the I hate that I'm forgetting names off the top of my head. The sound guy from 13 Hours, his got rescinded for direct contact with Academy members. The Alone Yet Not Alone, one of the most famous What the Hell nominations
Yeah.
for original song, and then that got rescinded for the very same thing. He was like the head of the music branch, though, so the influence and the power was very
There.
specific and very different. So I don't think that it's going to be quite like this. But yeah, either Frances Fisher or Mary McCormick, who I don't believe is Academy member, will probably be the ones that pay a price if there's any at all.
Yeah, Frances Fisher and that all that news coming out, it's a real devastating blow for the re-release of Titanic. But
it's gonna be even funnier.
It's gonna be really funny. Kev, I'm curious about you, man. I mean, you've kind of been on the outside looking in on this all week, and I kind of know stuff about you, but since this latest sort of update and everything that kind of dropped on Friday, and we're all sort of waiting on pins and needles, I'm just curious what you think about it and everything too. I mean, just not from the logistics standpoint, but kind of I feel like everybody's got to have an opinion on this right at this point, right? Or are you kind of just tired of it at this point, Kevin? Because I feel like we're in an exhausted part of already with this sort of nomination.
I feel like Kevin's gonna be like, wait, what are we even talking about?
You're like, who's Frances Fisher?
That would be valid.
I guarantee you many people on our show and over the last couple of weeks have been Googling Frances Fisher, like, who is Erik talking about and angry at now? So
yeah, I've talked a little bit about this over Twitter Spaces, where my main takeaway from this whole thing was just simply that we can only know so much what's actually going on in the industry because it's a whole different world. As much as we get to talk to some of these people and know some of them well, it's still a completely different world from where we're in. So like, it's we don't know what we don't know is what I'm trying to say. As for this situation and with the Academy releasing that statement, and I'm just thinking from a PR perspective, like there's not much they can do. I feel like all they can do is like say maybe change a few of their rules or policies, but not do a thing about the actual nominations for this year's ceremony, at least. And like I agree with a few people who have commented about feeling bad for Andrea Riseborough, because I feel like it's such a again, I don't know her, I wasn't there, but like I could feel like she didn't even ask for any of this, probably. It's weird to me because it's like this is the result of the actions that a group of people did, right? But you've got one person's name taking the brunt end of it, and that's Andrea Riseborough's name. And I just, it's so awkward. It's such a bizarre controversy because the people involved are, aside from like Frances Fisher, the people involved don't really have their names and their faces out front. It's more of a collective controversy that's going on. But you've got this one singular person taking the brunt end of it, and it's not even her fault. At least that's how I'm seeing this. And so like, I feel like this is one of those cases where we all lost. It's like, everyone's a loser.
I am totally with you exactly on that, Kevin. This was a thing that was both amazing and wonderful and absolutely like calamitous at the same time.
I think it provides an interesting, conversation as well too about, it's funny also we just are also going to we're assuming Viola Davis and Danielle Detweiler were like 6 or 7 in this category. We don't know that to be true or not, and it goes back to what we know and what we don't know. What you're saying, Kevin, is like we can assume things and we can look at the stats and we can have our predictions. But then sometimes I think like this is the first curveball that the Academy has given us in a long, long time in the social media, film Twitter sort of era. It feels like we haven't really had oh my God, out of left field, a movie that made $25,000 that
27.
27. Oh, I'm sorry, the $2,000 that was,
and actually it made 2,000 more this weekend. So
this weekend, yeah,
to 29.
Oh my God, it's breaking box office records.
But the thing is, like, we have experienced like shocking nominations before in these acting categories, but we've never had one where we see celebrities bring it up. And that we joke about this on Twitter. I've done this before. We tweet these funny, hilarious summoning circles of wanting someone or something get a nomination. We've seen shocking nominations before, but we've never seen one where we have seen active involvement from celebrities to conjure a summoning circle for this nomination, and it actually pulled through. So it's like
it's one of those in real life.
Your terminology with all of that, Kevin, is totally spot on, because the whole thing felt like cult behavior.
Yeah, it felt like like summoning up this nomination and everything. I will say one thing going forward with this, whatever the Academy's decision is, and I do agree with both of you. I don't think her nomination will be revoked. I don't also think that this is going to really particularly help her. Like some people of course, I feel like she's going to be like the thing that nobody wants to talk about anymore after this, and kind of just like,
well, now I want her to win.
Well, I know you want her to win. Well, no, but I think I've seen a lot of also, there's the secondary arguments that have come after, like, well, if it gets revoked, what does that mean for the race? Her involvement still in the race and all this news.
People in it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's what it is. And I also have heard a lot of disingenuous sort of arguments about what this means for Cate Blanchett, what this means for Michelle Yeoh and their campaigns by people who think that they're legitimate. And I think that, in all honesty, this is an isolated case, and it will remain that. And we are still not even close to voting yet. And there's still, obviously SAG and BAFTA and a bunch of other things, and she will not be a participant in either one of those ceremonies. And I just think
not necessarily,
unless she's written in, you know what I mean, or they make jokes about
is as brave and brazen as they've been. She'll be at SAG, she'll be at BAFTA, she'll be everywhere. No, that's true. I just don't think she'd want to do it.
I don't think she's going to want to do it now. I think that there's a ton of blowback from this. She's also she's this is probably like the most anyone's ever said Andrea Riseborough's name in her entire career. It's not, and I feel terrible because she's a fantastic actress. And she is very good in To Leslie. It is not one of these, like, it sounds like they've given her this cult nomination, but in all actuality, it's a very good performance in a movie that just nobody ever saw. So that's why it's a little out of the box and weird, but we'll see what the sort of ramifications come from it. But in terms of how it means for the rest of this race, she's 5 and she will be that way for the whole rest.
Now, my favorite thing is going to be in a couple of months when pundits start looking for the tiniest performance at a festival and feel like they can call it out as being like the Riseborough of the year.
To Leslie.
It's gonna happen.
Well, speaking of festivals, and they could probably get their start with the 2023 Sundance Film Festival. That was
a segue.
What a segue. Good job, Eric. Good job. Pat yourself on the back. You did some work today. We saw a ton of Eric. How many films did you see at Sundance?
I saw 20
films. Kev?
Jesus. I saw 9.
I saw only 9. Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I saw 28 titles. And listen, there are some people that we know that saw 50, 60, 70 titles.
Oh, I know. I missed a whole day, but I only did 2 days of 3+ movies.
Yeah. I had stuff on the background, but then I also Kevin reviewed 3 films up on the website. I did 5 reviews. Our writer A. Frame Tancer, he did 6 reviews, and Catherine Springer, another one of our writers, she did 3 as well. So all those reviews you can catch live on awardswatch.com if you want to go read about them. But I just wanted to, first off, let's get some like overall thoughts on the films that you did see, the trends that you started with. Kevin, I'll start with you. I know you only saw 9 films, but it feels like we also saw a lot of films because of the fact that everybody had so much access, and whether it was virtually or in person. So what was your overall takeaway from the 2023 Sundance Film Festival?
Yeah, my takeaway from this year's films is that a lot of them are tackling like really sophisticated and subject matters, and have fantastic premises to explore such subject matters. But I don't think the writing has been quite up to par to really dig deep and like interrogate and like dissect the ideas that the movies claim that they're about. And so they have all been these really, really interesting ideas where it's like, oh, cool, tell me more. And then, oh, that's all you wanted to talk about, huh? Okay, all right. And so you end up with a few films, either I found them disappointing or I found them good enough. And that was my overall vibe from this year's Sundance films, and some of them I felt they thematically overlapped.
Yeah, I think that there was a lot of. I was reading a lot online, and I apologize to the person that mentioned this, but I felt like a lot of people were mentioning that the biggest influence on this Sundance Film Festival felt like it was like Promising Young Woman. A lot of films. Was that you that mentioned that?
Was me. That's my whole thing.
Well, whoever said it online. Surely. No, I mean, Eric, I agreed a lot with that statement, because early on I was like, oh gosh, yeah, because we had like Eileen early on in the festival. I was like, okay, Eric, maybe you're reaching a little bit. But then there's like Cat People and Fair Play and a bunch of films.
It's Cat Person and Fair Play and a little bit of Bad Behavior, where it definitely felt like the 2-year impact of Promising Young Woman and the big,
Plot
girl
twist.
boss, girl fight, gatekeep kind of idea, or at least inspiration, with, for me, far less good results. But, there are a lot of people that liked those movies and didn't like Promising Young Woman. So I think that's one of the most fascinating conversations that I've had is having sort of a similar idea, but coming at it from the opposite perspective.
I think also too, racial identity and sex were also very much on full display.
There's a lot of sex.
A lot of sex. Yes, Eric. I'm sure you were like, I'm not going to say no to half of this.
It's just very clear that the filmmakers from this year's lineup have had enough of the sex scene discourse on Twitter,
or any sort of COVID constraints or whatnot. And they're like, we're going to go back to having sex in movies. You know what I mean? And
I hope I don't have COVID on my fingers.
I mean, like, one of my favorite films of the fest, Passages.
Speaking of,
I mean, Ira Sachs just was like, I'm going to give you 2, and I'm just going to keep the camera there and let them go to town,
Ira Sachs, more like Ben Whishaw Sachs.
Oh my. I pray for Josh Parham when he actually sees Passages, because I feel like
he's not going to do well.
We're never going to have him back on the show because he will be in a coma at that point.
But I mean, to that point, one of the interesting benefits, at least for us seeing things at a festival, is that generally they are unrated, unedited versions. These are not the theatrical final cuts. So there are definitely a few movies that are going to look different when the general audience gets to them versus what we're talking about now. And I think Passage probably will be, even though it's a movie, and definitely Infinity Pool, which just came out this weekend as well.
Well, I think for Passages, I hope and pray it doesn't, because I think like it's only 95 minutes long, and it's
Yeah, but 5 minutes of it is like butthole fingering. So that's I mean, it was in there.
But it's also, but
it was in there.
I will also say thematically it makes sense though too, Eric. If you really think about it when you're talking about that film. I think like a movie like Magazine Dreams, speaking of the sexy images of Jonathan Majors film, that movie is a movie I think that clearly will go in hopefully into the editing room. Because it feels like that movie definitely needs because it needs an edit because it's got more endings than the Lord of the Rings movie. It really does. Yeah.
You really think you're there and you're not.
Oh, you're not. Oh, we're not. Oh, we're not. Oh, okay. No, we're not done. Okay. But Eric, you did bring up Infinity Pool. It was the film that actually has been released already this weekend. I thought we could jump in and we'll start there and then we'll kind of talk about some of our favorite films from the festival. But this feels like it is the one that has been most talked about because it's Brandon Cronenberg's follow-up to Possessor, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And
with who? With Andrea Riseborough.
Yes, and Christopher Abbott. But this, of course, with Alexander Skarsgård and Mia Goth, our new Scream Queen, Mia Goth. Who's got her own opinions about the Academy, let me tell you that. But I'm curious what you thought about it, Eric, because I think you're going to be the most positive person here about Infinity Pool.
Yeah, I really, really liked it. I loved it. It's kind of split into two different movies and really and two different kind of modes and feelings. But no, I really liked it. It's haughty, nasty, hot garbage. And I really kind of liked that. I'm glad I got to see it at home. Although I would have liked to really watch people watch the movie, because I like that sometimes when something is just so fucked up or just rotten to its core or perverse or just absolutely graphic, because sometimes you don't really know what you're getting. Yeah, a lot of people are going to go in, I love Brandon Cronenberg, I'm going to totally dig this movie. And then other times you will get people that don't read reviews and don't watch trailers, and they're like, ooh, that sounds really interesting. I loved him on Big Little Lies. And then they're going to go in and they're going to get a huge cum shot right in their fucking eye and be super shocked about it.
Sorry to all of our listeners out there listening with their children in the car.
This is the uncut version, much like Andrew Skarsgård in Infinity Pool.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, Eric.
Just for a record, folks, he was sick a couple of days ago. He's back in his truest form.
He's totally back.
He's sick in another way now, in his normal way. Kevin, you reviewed the film, if I'm not mistaken, up on the website.
I did.
And I feel like based off your review, you were tame to what your lingering opinions might be about the film, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's I was so torn with Infinity Pool because I felt like Brandon Cronenberg has a really good sense of world building. I think there's a lot of the world building he does in terms of like how he builds his locations and his hallways and his set dressing and the sound design and how he creates like these hallucinatory images. They're really like unsettling and hypnotic, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? He's really good at all of that. And he got incredible performances out of Skarsgård and Goth. Both of them are like so absolutely deranged with a capital D. And of course, with him being a Cronenberg, he's reliably great when it comes to all the practical effects, all the gory, gnarly stuff. And the thing is, like, I was drawn to the film because I felt like, oh, he seems to be talking about like what happens when we do things free of consequences. Does it completely strip people of their morality? And what happens when you're wealthy enough to just pay away all of those things? And I was waiting for Cronenberg to really like rip that apart and like condemn either wealthy people or maybe even condemn everybody, and says like anyone, if they get to a certain point, if they're wealthy enough, if they're privileged enough, if they know that their actions don't have consequences anymore, anybody would lose their morality at some point. But I struggled with the film because I felt like Cronenberg as a writer couldn't really keep track of his characters' stream of consciousness in terms of their decision making. I think there's a lot of moments where Skarsgård's character chooses something, and I'm really baffled as to why he would at that moment, other than because the movie needs to go there. You know,
I think that's one of the biggest differences between him and his father. And David Cronenberg's his horror and body horror is so much more deliberate and so much more cerebral, and his son's is more hallucinatory and random. And I think he kind of does it on purpose to differentiate himself, but it's impossible not to compare.
But I think, but I think also too, the problem is for myself at least, and Kevin, I'll get back to your point in a second, is watching Crimes of the Future last year, it almost is a critique of this goddamn movie, of the fact that this new sex is the new art, and an old man looking at the guy with all the ears, right, which is a wild sort of thing to look at, and saying, oh, that's not art. And that's exactly what this movie kind of felt like when I was watching it. I'm like, did you not talk with your dad before you made this movie? Because it feels as if your dad's got you pegged to a T, son. And also that movie has a commentary, I think, and it was one of my favorite films of last year. It's got a commentary in it that's actually finishes out, goes all the way through, complex characters that feel like they get emotional wrap-ups and whatnot. And I just felt like it was like, that was a very fulfilling experience. Also, it had a lot of moments of levity and hilarity, like with camp too. Like Kristen Stewart's performance in that movie is it's very different and unlike things I've seen from her before. And in this film, it felt like things were just left open-ended, or they weren't fully realized. And it was just because you have Mia Goth going crazy Pearl again and Alexander Skarsgård on a leash, I sat there, okay, why are we getting these?
Yeah.
Like, where does the why get there? And I think it's like the recurring problem I'm having with these Eat the Rich films, because essentially, like, this is another problem with Triangle of Sadness I had last year and some other projects over the last couple of years, definitely Adam McKay, where a lot of stuff is like on the nose and I can see that it is, but there's more fruit to pull off of this vine, and they're not going there. They're going for other things rather than what essentially should be the commentary and the discussion that you should be having, like you're mentioning. But I just felt that it was almost like an empty experience. It was a lot of empty calories by the end of the film.
Empty calories. Yeah, because I think Brandon Cronenberg is a pretty brilliant director. And
he's got a good visual eye.
Yeah, he does. He really does. Like the way he shoots his actors is like really, really unsettling, yet like you can't look away. Like he does these extreme close-ups of people's eyes and their necks and like a bead of sweat running down their face and
other things.
And and other things. There's like, so he does have that visual sensibility as a director, but like unfortunately this is a case where it's like he should be directing someone else's writing, because
it seems very unlikely.
Yeah.
I know. Because for me, every film, there is content and there is form. And to me, this movie is all form and no content.
He's got really great ideas.
And it disappoints me because it's right there. This premise sets up really, really good meat on that bone for me to eat. And they're like, nah. You can look at it and vibe while looking at it, though.
Yeah,
I definitely did that.
What?
It's visually very compelling.
Yeah, I will say it is the similar problems that I had with Possessor as well too. It's such an interesting premise of someone tapping in. You know, we've seen it before, kind of a body tapped into the subconscious of somebody else and living through them and having the submersion of it. I felt like, though, when I was watching that film, much like this, his visual, like you're saying, Kevin, aesthetics are so, they're almost even at this point of his career ahead of his father in certain aspects. But his father had commentary. He had things that were being said in his movies on the surface and below it, and you could dissect into many of those things. And I think just the screenwriter has not matched the visual artist yet. And I don't know if that means that he needs a co-writer, or maybe dad needs to take a pass at the script or something. I don't know.
I would not be upset if his father took a pass at a few of those drafts.
Yeah. I mean, and surely Neon, I love Neon to death, but they're in the business of making Brandon Cronenberg films right now, because he's, they've made his last two, and
I know,
and they're not, and I don't think he's going to get a no from them anytime soon. And I just maybe stick to something just as one idea and keep it like that. I don't know how to find the good, great movie that would be in this film, but yet a lot of people are like yourself, Eric, are responding to it because I liked it,
but I liked it for the reasons I said. It is pretty hot garbage, but and I worry that the best Brandon Cronenberg won't be better than the worst David Cronenberg.
What is the worst David Cronenberg?
I don't know, but it's probably better than.
It's probably better than this. Well, it's hard.
We spent an awful lot of time on for something that we don't like.
Well, that's true. So let's talk about some of the things that we did love. So we've got some of our top 3 things, or just some movies in general. We'll have a loose conversation about it. But Eric, what's something that you wanted to highlight? What was something that you saw during the festival that you loved and responded to?
I definitely had a lot of like mid-level reactions to a lot of what I saw, like 3.5 stars, which is it's fine for me.
Oh, I know what that phrase is.
That would be if I actually wrote reviews on Letterboxd, it'd be it's fine.
It's fine.
And I would just do that like 7 times. Anytime
we go out to a restaurant and we go and eat something that's pretty good, Eric goes, it's fine. It's just like, no, it was good. What are you talking about? It's
better than saying not bad, which I hate when people say.
Oh, I hate when you say that. Yeah.
Anyway. Something I absolutely loved in my top of things that I saw was theater camp.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was worried. I like the cast mostly. But we have Waiting for Guffman and Best in Show and an entire litany of Christopher Guest films that kind of do this, and Wet Hot American Summer and Drop Dead Gorgeous. And it absolutely was at that level for me because it was non-stop hilarious. And the kids in this, every single one of them came to fucking play. They did not miss a beat. It was
fantastic.
Oh, I love it. I love that Searchlight picked it up. I can't wait for that to come out.
They did?
Yes.
That is a perfect place for it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good.
I just thought, and I even really love Ben Platt. I thought Ben Platt was perfect in this because he's certainly playing off of his own persona a little bit.
Yeah.
And does it exactly right. Noah Galvin. Oh my
God. Noah Galvin is the
real star of that relationship.
The sequence where it was Tech Week and he has to like roll down a hill is one of the funniest visual gags I've seen in a long time, because if you've ever been in that spot, like I have, and probably others that are listening, you end up being like the one tech person in a tech week that's running everywhere, and the fog machine's not working, and this isn't oh my God, it's so, and the jokes are so specific, and yet it is a crowd pleaser, and it's you feel very seen if you're in theater or film, and can respond to, I think, a lot of the humor of this film.
I fell in love with theater camp like 10 minutes in. I tweeted about it when when they had the when Noah Gavin and Jimmy Tatro as Troy have this
It's so
exchange in the
good.
beginning, and he goes, "What's a straight play?" And he goes, "Well, there are musicals and there are straight plays." Okay, so then what would be a gay play? Well, a
A
musical.
musical.
The genius of Jimmy Tatro has still not even fully been unearthed
Realized.
because
No.
he is fucking hilarious.
He is absolutely hysterical, and I felt for him too. Like, I think the thing is, like, I agree with you, Eric, that the movie is just relentlessly funny, like nonstop, and it either comes from the performances or it comes from those incredibly smart and perfect timing of cutaways when it cuts back to something from text that tells us, and then what happened. That's
Mhm.
so genius. But honestly, like, I bought into the actual drama of the story. I felt like there was actually stuff at stake um, going on at the camp. And so by the time it gets to its like finale, I was getting really emotional and I was feeling really, really happy for all these characters. And the movie's like 95 minutes long. I would have totally been down to just vibe with these people longer than that.
Yeah.
I think as a movie, it's the perfect length. It could have even been like 90 minutes. Otherwise, I'd want it like a TV show or something.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that is so successful about it and why you responded the way you did, and I definitely did too, is that it never goes deep into ridiculing them.
Yeah.
And especially somebody like Jimmy Tatro, whose character would be easy to just make fun of as being a dumb blockhead. It doesn't do that, and there is enough empathy while still mining so much humor.
Yeah.
And I think it's that really delicate line that it stands on, where you can very easily just make somebody such a butt of a joke that
Mhm.
it's easy to laugh at them because you have
Right.
no stakes in them as a human. And
Right.
that's not the case here. And
Yeah.
that's
Right.
why it's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
Oh,
I
yeah.
I agree with the earlier comments about Ben Platt. What
Mhm.
is your character's allergy? What? Oh fuck, we have a lot of work to do. Okay. And then Molly Gordon is so delightful.
So good.
So delightful.
Continuing to prove that she's such a great talent.
The lyrics in her songs, the deadpan delivery of and then there is a joke in this movie involving a person being non-union that had me wheezing and howling.
It's one of those that I just regret. This is was one of two films I wish I would have saw with a crowd, because I
Yeah.
just feel like a crowd's energy off a movie like this. I believe it won an audience award or fan favorite or something.
It won the special jury prize for the cast, for the
Yes.
ensemble.
And I mean, like,
well
even
deserved.
Nathan Lee Graham too is hysterical in his moments as well in the film. But I mean, then you have a song leader for best original song by the end of the final number, which is like hilarious, but then it's also very sincere. This movie dances a tight rope between two of them, where it doesn't become obnoxious and it keeps its sincerity while also its specificity throughout the entirety of its runtime. I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to watch it again.
I would
Yeah.
really also like to see an offshoot movie with Alan Kim's agent.
Yes.
Because he needed a little bit more, because holy shit, he was so funny.
He was-
So adorable. Just him in that outfit, just on the phone, and just acting busy all the time on the phone.
Oh my god.
so good.
Making the deal at the play. Oh my god. Stop.
Kevin, what about you? Was there a film that you really wanted to highlight and something that you loved as well?
Yeah, so Theater Camp was my favorite movie that I saw of all the ones I saw at Sundance. So aside from that, I do want to give a shout out to Sometimes I Think About Dying, which is this small, quiet drama that I think really, really captures loneliness and what it's like being an introvert to a T. I think that the movie has a very beautiful observational style to it, where we're with this character played by Daisy Ridley. She's just at her office, she's working, and the way she's framed and shots, the way the sound design makes you hear the back and forth banter at the office. It's very, very droning, but also like it's not fake. It's constantly observing the world around you, even though you're not directly engaging with it. And that's what Daisy Ridley's character is. Like she doesn't engage with anyone, but she's always listening and she's always watching people. And then her world kind of gets flipped upside down when this new guy comes in, this new hire, who is very, very friendly and wants to make friends with everyone, and kind of sort of forces her to start interacting with people. And like, it's a movie that I really enjoyed. And it was like, okay, I'm liking this. And then out of nowhere, the last 10 minutes just sneaks up on you. It just pulls the rug out from under you. And it's beautifully written. Daisy Ridley's performance is she's so good and underappreciated here. I think people should check this out.
Yeah, I wrote about it on the website. I really responded to it too. It really sneaks up on you. It early on I was like, oh, it's going to be one of those Sundance movies. It's
very Sundance-y.
It's got it at the beginning where you're like, God damn it, the visual lens, it's all quiet. It's very mumblecore-ish at the beginning, and you're just kind of like, my God, I'm going to really just hate having to write this. But then it actually reminded me, aesthetically at least, of Jesse Eisenberg's movie last year of When You Finish Saving the World. I agree. A movie I also reviewed and didn't like. But Ridley's performance, the ensemble cast around her, the commitment to having this character's evolution be the forefront of it, and actually finishing on a way better note than a movie like that, and having that character confront the change that's happening in their life. I thought it was very well done, and it was a good solid start to the festival. After like about 10 minutes where I was like, oh, I don't know where this is going to go. It starts to really hone in on itself. And by the end, it snuck up on me in terms of how emotional it made me by the end. And I thought Ridley's, who, obviously we know her mostly from Star Wars movies and things of that nature, finally gets like a role where it's different than what we've seen her do before. And I thought she really knocked it out of the park. Eric, did you catch it?
No, I had a ticket and it expired.
Oh, okay.
I did not see it.
You hate Daisy Ridley. All right.
No.
I see how it is.
I wouldn't have had it
Good
on
job.
my list.
All right, Star Wars fans, you win. He's with you on that side. You know what I'm saying?
You needed more lightsaber.
And you needed to not have her in it. Anyway, I wanted to give a shout out to a movie that Kevin reviewed on the site. It's a movie Eric doesn't like. He's kind of in the middle of it. It's a movie called Fair Play. It was one of my top 3 films of the festival. I really responded to it. It is one of
Star Wars actors who can act.
Yeah, exactly. For me, I've never seen Bridgerton, so this was my introduction to Phoebe Devenor. Yeah, and I loved her in this film. I thought she was fantastic opposite Alden Ehrenreich, who I've missed. I love Alden Ehrenreich. I can't wait to see him in Cocaine Bear for 5 minutes. I think he's one of those like young actors where I'm like, this guy has the potential to be a movie star if you just give him the goddamn work. And they are going in this sort of just tit for tat, power dynamics between this couple who she gets a promotion at this hedge fund that he thinks he's going to have. And it's all about the privilege of him, of thinking that he has earned that job, her trying to keep it. Their relationship is kept a secret outside of it. They have, and it all starts crumbling minute by minute. I just thought the tension in this movie was absolutely perfect for it. I get that some people don't like the ending of this film. I thought it was actually really good, and kind of exactly where I wanted the film to end. And ultimately, I thought it was one of the better debuts that we had at the festival. And it does have that sort of DNA that we talked about of having the promising young woman sort of, twist or, tension built or whatnot.
It's the women's revenge.
Yeah, exactly.
With
a
little bit of reality.
Yeah, I think that it does it better than a movie like that does, in my opinion, wholeheartedly. And I think that it's just much more confident, and reminded me a lot more of like a more, demented, almost like, version of Margin Call. Like, what if Margin Call was done by Paul Verhoeven almost, went away. And like, that's what I was feeling. But Chloe Dumont, who directed this film, did a fantastic job. Her screenplay is one of my favorites that I saw at the festival, and I just think these two performances are the cream, or some of the cream of the crops. And I know Eric's
all in the screenplay.
Yeah, it's all within the looks of each of those characters, and the way the camera's positioned from her desk to his throughout the film. That
screenplay could have gone so wrong. Like anyone who is less skillful of a writer could have made that movie much more shallow and overly simplistic. And I mentioned this in my review that like, what is the thing that's really fueling this relationship going sour ever since she gets that promotion? Is it just jealousy? And like, yeah, of course he's jealous, but it's more than that. He's coming up with all kinds of ways to explain away her promotion. He's finding ways to tear down her competence in the workforce. So this isn't just about this fiance, because they're engaged in the beginning of the movie. This isn't just about a fiance being jealous. It's about a man who is seeing his place in the world being threatened. And if he doesn't get that place, if he doesn't earn that place and someone else does, he will find ways to explain it away. And I think that's something that I really, really appreciated in the writing. Plus, on top of that, I really appreciated how much Chloe Dumont wrote Phoebe's character, Emily, if I remember correctly, her name, that she actually attempts multiple times throughout the films to try to keep their relationship like going and to try to fix things. Like, it's like, do you want something from me? Do you need me to do something for you? Like, I'm here for you, but it doesn't work out. And it's a really, really good slow burn that I think loses steam just a bit near the end. But thankfully, I did enjoy the ending.
Yeah. Eric?
See, I thought the screenplay was one of the biggest faults of the movie, because Aaron Reich's Luke is so much better written than Emily. Even though he's essentially supposed to be the bad guy, he is so much more evolved as a character than she is. And it didn't help, again, totally from my estimation, that Aaron Reich's performance is like above the bar, A-level killer. And I thought Denver was absolutely basement horrible.
Wow.
Like,
wow.
Horrible.
Oh my
and
God.
I think maybe a different actress could have taken that screenplay and given it what it deserved. But the entire time was watching her struggle to figure out what American accent she was going to use. And it put her somewhere between like Nicole Kidman and Naomi Watts.
Oh God.
And then she really started sounding like Naomi Watts, like halfway through. I'm like, okay, this is just Naomi Watts. And every single line and every bit of her intensity was overwhelmed by my visual of her trying to wrap her mouth around the language. And then she would slip with words that ended in R, and it'd be an instead of an R, and it would just constantly just keep chipping away and chipping away, and I was just by the end wishing it was somebody else. So it just impacted my ability to like it at all. And I hate that I'm watching a movie about this subject and I'm rooting for the fucking scumbag. He's just better written and a better performer. Sorry.
No, I mean,
like a fucking misogynist. I apologize.
No. Well, we know where Erik stands now. He stands on the Star Wars fan side, and no, I'm just kidding.
Oh my God,
your takes. No, I'm just kidding. No, I get it. I mean, the movie has been a little bit divisive, in terms of, I think by nature it really has been. It also was just picked up by Netflix, a $20 million acquisition, which is like, okay.
Good luck with that.
Good luck with that. I'm sure it's going to get a return on investment on that when it goes to theaters. So wait. Erik, I'll go back to you. Was there something else that you really
there's a lot of things.
Yeah.
I think there were just some wonderful gems that I just had so much fun with. Rye Lane is absolutely so much fun, and felt like it was a side story from Sex Education, from the TV show, because it was written and acted and looked and performed just like an episode of that show. And it was
interesting.
Oh God, it was funny and beautiful and vibrant, and I loved it. Also visually stunning. Aldrich Rhodes' Taste of Salt, gorgeous, ethereal, mostly non-narrative, beautifully shot, beautifully scored.
Kevin, did you catch that one?
I unfortunately did not.
Yeah,
but it's probably the one that and Past Lives, which is in person only.
Yes, that's the thing that is on my obvious most want to see, because it was an in-person only. Yeah. I love Cassandra.
Yeah, I love Cassandra too. Yeah, that was one.
Passages we mentioned. Those were probably all of my like really, really big likes, and then a lot of just it was okay or it was very bad. I watched the Persian version this morning, which got 2 awards, including the audience award, which is basically like an Iranian My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Yeah, I did not.
Very, very much, but
I did not like that movie.
I saw your 2 stars. It had too many things going for it.
That's the problem for it. Yeah.
And even if it had just taken away the fourth wall breaking, it would have been a huge improvement, but it was too many things. The mother's story was so compelling. I didn't even care about the daughter. And she's the core. She's the star of the
Yeah, I know. I mean, I agree. All the movies that you kind of just mentioned as your favorites, Erik. Again, this is very weird. Those were some of my favorites. My top 5, my top 6 was like Sometimes I Think About Dying. Theater Camp was up there. Cassandra, which I had review up on the website. Fair Play. Passages was my number 2, which I gotta say this in a festival full of like first-time directors or debuts and all these different things. It's nice to have a film by a confident director that's been around for a long time and knows what the hell they're doing with story structure and character dynamics and making every character very well rounded and doing it within like 91 minutes and having so much meaningful,
relentlessly horny and sexy. Like, it's the horniest movie of the year. Oh my God.
It is. And then but it's also like there's a lot of purpose behind all of its horniness, and there's like there's thorn to the horn, you know what I mean, because there's a lot of bite to it. Yeah, exactly. You know what, I had to go there because of the
still not as funny as Biangle of Sadness. I'm sorry.
Biangle of Sadness is what we almost went with it for the time.
That's an all-timer from me.
I went, you know what, he's not feeling that bad, ladies and gentlemen.
That was like a moment of like, oh, I'm out of the dark. Here, let me make a shitty pun.
But I just think, Adele Exarchopoulos and Ben Whishaw, but obviously Franz Rogowski just continues to just be one of the best actors that not everyone is talking about. Between his Christian Petzel films and then Great Freedom last year and this, it's like dude is coming to play every single film, and he's so good in this movie.
He kept making me so angry in this.
Every choice.
Like, how fucking dare you do that to Ben Whishaw, you son of a bitch.
But then you couldn't get your eyes off of him.
Oh my God, so compelling. And I want every single one of his outfits in this movie. That crop top, which I could not pull off, I don't care.
No.
I'll wear it around the house. I want it.
Yeah. I also, too, like, the bottom energy of him to then also be like a vindictive bottom is like everything you wanted to be and then some. Just saying.
I felt a little scene with that.
I was just gonna say, I was like, girl, that's a documentary for you.
I was like, except for the girl stuff, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I know what this is.
This feels familiar. This feels lived in.
A little bit.
But the best thing that I did see at the festival was All Dirt Rose Taste of Salt, Raven Jackson's film. I was doing an Erik with After Sun, which is another Pastel and A24 joint effort that came out last year, and they're behind this film as well. And I was a sobbing mess by the end of this thing. It's not about sometimes also the simplistic is the best thing, and it is this sort of kaleidoscope of images and memories and how they relate back to you, specifically this young Black woman in Mississippi, where it's what we follow throughout when she was a baby to all the way even at times when she is an elderly woman at a certain point too. And it's about all the regret and all the mistakes and all of the little conversations that we have that, in the grand scheme of like, tell me about your life, we're probably not going to tell a random stranger. But when we think back, it's like those quiet moments that make us whole and unique, and the familiarity of the dirt and the soil and of the feel and the touch of when you come home and what a home in your childhood feels like. It's so well lived in. This is the most well lived in directorial debut I've seen in quite some time, probably next to Charlotte Wells' After Sun from last year. I just with
like, even less of a narrative.
Yeah, there is no narrative behind this film. No, it is just
it's sort of like if you put like Hale County with just the second unit footage of the Underground Railroad together. That's kind of what this is, because it's about visual and sound and feeling and emotion to tell this story of a life without it being a narrative 3-act structure story.
Yeah. And I mean, it really is a directorial achievement. And also the editing of the film is so purposeful because it's so effortless. And then there's just these shots, these sort of center frame shots. I mean, it's like the photo that you see that's attached to the film. But when you see that photo used in its scene and what it represents for Mac's character in the film, going back and looking about, the sort of longing to have her mother as a part of the life that she's had in those moments that we see in the film, it's devastating and it's beautiful. It's, oh my God, it's going to be one that was the other film that I was trying to say and mention, that I wish I could see this visually on the big screen, to hear the sounds and to get immersed into this world. So I hope and pray some other film festival, or when A24 releases it out in the world, that it gets into my area so that I could see it. Because I think it's.
I imagine they will, though. They're really good about putting.
Yeah, at least getting it one weekend out somewhere.
A24 is a film festival studio.
Yeah, I feel like we might get a second run of that film at maybe at South by, because they do have some festival favorites that carry over from Sundance, so that people could see it. But Kevin, did you have some other films that you kind of liked, or were there some films? Maybe we could talk about the films that you didn't like. Because I always find, because, you know, we talk about like 5 or 6 titles that we all love, but then Sundance is always notorious for the bargain bin of like, oh, 2.5 stars, or lighten up your timeline for the next 7 days, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, leave Fairyland alone.
Oh, that's a bad movie.
Yeah, so I saw one Sundance thriller that Netflix also picked up, if I remember correctly. And I was so looking forward to it because the premise sounded, you know, familiar but cool. Like I'll take that for a thriller. And then, but I wanted to see it because of the lead actress in it, because Sarah Snook is the lead actress.
Oh, I heard about this one.
But unfortunately, I found Run Rabbit Run to be extremely repetitive and not interesting, and didn't have a compelling narrative trajectory that really build that suspense and slow burn. It just felt like it's going in circles and staying in place. It tells the story of this mother whose daughter begins to act more and more strange after her 7th birthday, and she starts saying things that forces the mother to have to confront something awful that happened in her past. And I would say, by the way, to those listeners, if you hate the Babadook because you find the child really annoying, you probably don't want to watch this one either, because the child is also pretty annoying. The thing though is, like, it doesn't seem to be building to anything. So it's a lot of mother tells daughter to stop doing this thing, the daughter does it anyway, and then daughter says something creepy that makes the mother go, how did you know that? Rinse and repeat. And it's just that for 100 minutes. And anytime the film really escalates because of violence, or it escalates because of a reveal, it either cuts to black or fades to black, and it kind of starts over again with the next scene. And so all the momentum and suspense that you built is suddenly gone. And like I wonder what happened in the editing room for this film. I think it needs another cut, if it's even possible, because I think there are certain pieces that are there, and Sarah Snook is really good in it, but she doesn't have much to do because the script doesn't really go anywhere. And even by the end, when you find out what the actual revelation is, it's like, oh, okay, what is the movie gonna do about it? Nothing really.
Bummer.
So there's that, and so that's one that was really disappointing to me on a thriller genre. The other one that was also equally disappointing to me, but from the sci-fi genre, is The Pod Generation.
God, that stupid movie. God.
Oh, I liked it.
I know you did. You basic bitch. You know.
Oh, it's just, oh God, like another example of a movie where I actually really love its premise. I love the idea that there's this company that has this advanced technology that can allow couples to have a baby without the mother actually having to carry the baby, you know, and just have it in a pod. That's interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
The film doesn't really actually dive into what consequences come from that, though. The pieces are kind of there. They're kind of there. Like when they designed the app that lets you decide what you want to feed the baby with. Like there's something about the gamification of parenthood that's kind of funny and interesting there.
And it was like feeding fish too, which was weird.
It was so bizarre. But the part that I really, really wanted the film to hit home on is how if this technology actually existed, and if this company actually existed, it would make couples lazier. It would make everyone so much lazier. And the film didn't really go there. And like the Sundance description calls it a satire, and I'm not really convinced that it's satire, because I don't really see it's making fun of things, and because it seems to be building this world, and it sort of has a tone and aesthetic that's saying this is nice. Isn't this nice? And I'm thinking, no, you should be telling us this is horrible and stupid. And
well,
Emilia Clarke
Ejiofor is kind of doing that though.
Yeah, but the thing is,
I get you.
They set that conflict up really, really well, right? Emilia Clarke does her best. Chiwetel Ejiofor does his best. There is that conflict already there with Chiwetel Ejiofor's character being about, I want things to be natural, and then she goes, well, what does natural even mean? And you have that conflict there, and then the script just kind of forgets about it and never really introduces that conflict between the two of them back anymore. And I felt like that is just such a missed opportunity. And by the time it gets to the third act and that couple makes certain decisions, at some point I said out, because we're watching in the comfort of our homes, I just said out loud, you two don't deserve to have a child.
Somebody take that egg away from you.
You deserve to have that pod taken away.
There was something though just about it being an egg, and when they're walking around with it, that made me think of the schools that did those kind of experiments where you had to take care of an egg for a week, or even like the PE, you had to run across the field with an egg and a spoon. It made me think of both of those things like so much. And that, in that sense, I could see like the satirical bent to it, because it was clearly a kind of a generational thing. I don't think they do that anymore. But it felt like it was trying to kind of do that. I kind of agree with you. I think if this was, a real place and a real thing, that maybe it would be, I don't know, more heightened, but it also at the same time, I guess we're made to feel that it's a pretty regular thing and not an exceptional thing. That place certainly needed better security by the end of it.
It reminded me of Chappie, because I also thought of the same thing, because there's a part in Chappie where I thought this building has the worst security I've ever seen in my life.
And really, that's just one of those, we don't need to fuss up the screenplay by making it harder to get to point B from the goal that character has. So it is a very lazy thing.
I just think there's so many missed opportunities there. Like had the film been a much angrier movie about how AI and technology makes us unwilling to perform the most basic things in life, and that such company that comes out and says this is empowering to you is bullshit, and that it's just another it's just another form of capitalist greed. I wish the film dove into that more and also be more cautionary about it.
It does a little bit in the form of the woman that is the spokesperson and like the running the account. When he's like, I want to take my baby. Well, it's not your property. Contract. That element of it has a really great, when you sign off on your phone or your whatever it is, you are signing away your rights in a way that is something that happens to everybody every day because they too long didn't read. And there are a lot of bits of that all come from her and that character.
Yeah.
And her demeanor and the way that she's sort of like Darcy Carden in The Good Place, where she's kind of robotic about it.
Yes. She
has to be. And maybe she is. Maybe she's like not even a human. I don't know. That's a whole nother thing.
I didn't like the film. I thought it was half baked and could have spent some more time in the oven. No pun intended.
It was soft-boiled.
Yeah, it was. It was very. Yeah, there was a runny yolk. But I think a movie that I think a lot of people liked. I guess I was getting good notices, and then Eric and I watched it, and he mentioned early Fairyland.
Garbage. I'm so angry at that movie, and I'm sorry, but Emilia Jones, just stop.
Jail.
Stop.
Jail.
Casting her. She is absolutely awful, and it's the worst screenplay.
She's bad in Cat Person too.
Yeah,
I didn't like her in that either. And I think like when she when there's the voiceover at the end of the film, and she's like, it was our home, it was our fairyland, and I was like, get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. Throw this whole movie out the back door. It was bad.
That was very bad, but it wasn't even the most on the nose as when the dying dad, oh, you should write about this someday. And I'm like, calm down, fucking Sammy Fableman. Calm down.
I mean, also too, it was
the worst though, because I think this screenplay is absolute garbage.
Yeah.
Is that it does what the worst screenplays do when you are taking place in a different period and pretending that the people that are in the movie in that moment are in 2022.
There's no way Emilia Jones has ever lived in that era.
Outside of the record store and going, oh my God, he's so cute. He looks like John Taylor from Duran Duran. If it is 1986, you do not need to say John Taylor from Duran Duran because you already know who John Taylor is. I don't know why I'm being so picky on this moment, but it's moments like that are so fucking fake.
Yeah, it's like
not for the characters, it's for the audience. I hate it.
It's like with some of Margot Robbie's dialogue in Babylon. It doesn't make any goddamn sense. Like, you know, it's her look also too. No, I think also too, like, I'd love to see new interpretations of Pinocchio, and Gina Davis's performance in the film is so wooden that it's great to see her.
If I could slap you through this monitor, I would. She is fine.
If you slapped me, it would be
Gina Davis.
If you slapped me, it would be more than, hi, how is your father? I am a robot. And maybe she was one of the pods from the pod generation. I don't know. She's awful in the film.
Shut your mouth.
I very much can't wait for Fairyland to be our next Best Picture winner. That'll be really just, you know, it's got the Coda vibes without being the sincere things. It really does. It's like it is very, even with the actress from Coda, it very much feels like it's tapping into like trying to be that kaleidoscopic, you know, whole life sort of thing, and this big, like, you know, grand story and purpose behind it. But the movie's just so flat. Even Scoot McNairy, his performance that everybody's raving about, he's not good in this movie at all.
I'm like, have you not seen *Halt and Catch Fire*? Because that's a good Scoot McNairy. But there's no way that he was going to be able to take that script and turn it into anything other than a shiny turd.
That's true.
You could rub it all you want.
That's
just
fair.
Smear it around. It is garbage.
Anything
Sorry that this happened to you, but no, it's terrible.
I think also too, this is a movie Eric he liked. Eileen. I hated that. I did not much. Oh, you did not like that movie. It was so. Talk about a movie also being all the way.
Thomasin McKenzie also struggles with her accent at every single moment.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to like pitch her off of a bridge.
Yeah. Though I was all for Anne Hathaway. She is living her best life. But for God's sakes,
all of it.
That movie just is all over the place by the third act for me.
Oh, I love that third act.
Even though it does have a good there is a good monologue. There's just the mechanics of all of it. You're gonna have to leave your brain at the door when it comes to it. It's
no way. It is awesome.
It's stupid.
When Thomasin McKenzie goes over there thinking that she is gonna fuck Anne Hathaway, and then nope.
Yeah, door slam there. You know what I mean?
But I don't know how you could hate it when we get that scene with Marin Ireland. I won't even say anything about where or what the scene is. That is an Oscar-worthy, campaign-worthy scene.
There's your two Leslie right there.
That is my two Leslie, is
Yeah.
Marin Ireland in this movie.
Bad Behavior. Did you watch Bad Behavior?
I did, from Jane Campion's daughter.
Oh, a little Nepo baby at the
it was a Nepo.
Sundance.
It was Nepo season at Sundance. I love it. No, I really liked it, and it's messy and weird.
Yeah.
And aggressive and ugly.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of loved every bit of it. And Jennifer Connelly was amazing.
And Ben Whishaw.
And again, Ben Whishaw.
Whishaw.
Fingering in this, though.
Last thing that I wrote about it up on the website. I gave it kind of a middle of the road review, even though I think the performance carries it begrudgingly over the top. Though the more I've thought about it, I'm never going to watch this movie again. And that was Magazine Dreams.
It's a no for me.
Yeah, I agree with you, Eric. I think I was too kind to it. I like, the more I thought about it, I think that this movie is like we got to stop having movies made about this too. Also, the more I've thought about it, I was like, man, I would just rather watch Taxi Driver than actually watch something like this again, because that movie has a point. Like, there are so many scenes taken out of Taxi Driver and put in Magazine Dreams. Like,
yeah,
literally,
it pulls the punches every single time.
Exactly, as opposed to Taxi Driver, which there's a purpose for everything that leads up to, and that's why that movie's a masterpiece. And this is what it is. I mean, Majors is great. I mean, there's no denying his performance. He's very committed the entire way through. Kevin, I don't know if you saw Magazine Dreams or not.
I have not, but I have heard mixed things about it, where everyone says Majors is great, but the movie itself isn't.
Yeah, it's a screenplay problem, hands down. And also, I think editing, because of those 95 endings. But I know that you and I were talking about that, Eric. We're like, when the fuck is this thing going to end? It's too long. It's way too long.
It is. I was talking with somebody about it after I saw it, and it was just one of those things, like when Kevin and I were talking about Decision to Leave, where your opinion on it starts to reform because you're talking about it in a different way than when you just saw it. And even Majors, I was a little less impressed with in revisiting it, because the analogy I made was that sometimes he is like a dancer where you can watch them counting the steps.
Ah, yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
And you can see the decisions that he's making before he makes them. And that is, for me, I mean, as an actor,
that's a no-no.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah.
And I kind of kept feeling that, because he was, he plays him sort of like the super angry, violent version of Last Black Man in San Francisco, where it's like, is he autistic? Is he touched? And by doing that, it kind of like rids him of being able to be responsible. I don't know. There was my revisit of it was a little different than initial, at least for his performance.
No, I agree.
I still think the movie's bad.
I think the performance is still good. I didn't have that. I think his level of commitment and everything in it is there's no questioning any of that. And
maybe he should question that level of commitment a little bit.
Maybe. But I think a lot of the problems I have with the film are the half-baked ideas that are put on the page. And this is a similar problem with this director, because he also directed Hot Summer Nights, which is a film starring Timothée Chalamet. And that film is also a movie all about the style and the vibe of it, without saying anything new in a genre that has been touched many, many times. And there are so many things about, that are mentioned in the film about how healthy food alternatives are not provided for people of color in their communities as opposed to white ones, and the idea of bodybuilding in this competitive universe, and how dangerous it actually is, and mental health, as well as untapped homosexual ideas of this sport and grooming and mentoring that could have been tapped in as well. There's also the violent nature of a lot of the decisions that are very half-baked. They're all done with for shock value, or they pull back before they actually commit to something. It all feels like, oh, maybe we should do that. No, don't do that. And then they were about to go down this avenue. Oh, no, don't do that as well. And then you have both female characters in the film that are completely underwritten and are only used as disposable characters for him, and they don't have any sort of identity. Like they're also very carbon copies of Sybil Shepherd in Taxi Driver and Jodie Foster's character in Taxi Driver, and yet there's no complexity or anything added to them like those characters have in that film. So,
I think a little bit of that is because it's so focused on his idol.
Yeah,
and that moment, because the moment I'm talking about is actually really fascinating.
Yes,
and everything about it is kind of what I wanted the whole movie to be.
It kind of gets into like a little campy,
it's not just the
homoeroticism
of it, and it's just the, I don't know.
It's the obsession. It's kind of everything you want, like you're saying, Eric, it to get to, but then it doesn't commit to going down that avenue.
I just wish the rest of it had been like that moment.
Yeah, but then also too the voiceover is very De Niro in Taxi Driver as well. It's a Taxi Driver ripoff, and
with a little bit of King of Comedy.
Yeah, a little bit of King of Comedy. Very much
was
like
this Joker that we're
I was just gonna.
about?
It's
It
very
really,
Joker.
really is. It really is.
I mean, I'll give Todd Phillips credit that he at least commits to figuring it out by the end. Instead of giving you.
Let's not do that.
I'm just saying.
Figures what out?
Yeah,
I mean, he commits to going down one ending at least, as opposed to this movie where it goes down every possible avenue or idea that you could have, and then it doesn't commit to any of them, and then you're just kind of left there like, well, what the fuck did I learn out of this movie? I didn't learn shit. I didn't learn shit about him. Like nothing. Like. And so, yeah, the more I've talked about it, the more I don't like it. And it happens. It happens. So, well, I think that's on that note. There were a lot of other films that, I mean, what's crazy is
did you see the winner, the Grand Jury Prize winner?
Yeah, I did.
2001.
I did.
Yeah, it's a movie.
It's a movie. They made a choice.
It's a movie.
Yeah, I kind of sat there and the fact that like a movie like All Dirt Roads didn't even get like a prize. I sat there.
Yeah, that should have gotten the cinematography prize
or the director prize or something. No, I saw 1001 and I was.
I mean, I think Teyana Taylor was great. I thought she was fantastic. It's a pretty generic story.
It's a little long.
A little bit.
Yeah. It is but very generic.
Very good.
She's good. She could have gotten like a performance award if you wanted to give her or something. It didn't feel like it felt like the jury this year. Also, too, by the way, with magazine juries, we had the very controversy, about that was and whatnot about captioning and Marlene Matlin and everything that has been covered. But I'm not like to say it was going to hurt the film's chances. It's just that was there. But it felt like this jury they went different than I think we've seen in recent juries before, because when we hear about a lot of great films that are getting praised or whatnot, we think, oh, well, then it's going to get represented, one way or another. But a lot of the films that won prizes were films that I think people have been catching up the last day and a half, because 1001 was like not even. Like from the critics that I saw, it was not like the most well reviewed or well received film.
And that's a Focus Features release, so that will be out.
I believe it's going to be out in like a couple months or something like that.
I think it's an early it's like
March or April somewhere.
Yeah.
But
did you see Mutt? That was the performance winner, Leo Mihil.
Did I see Mutt? Yes. No, I didn't get to. That's one of the ones that
I liked it.
have to. Was it good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The one documentary I do want to get out there, and I do want to say, was Bad Press. Did you guys watch Bad Press?
No.
It was.
I didn't watch any documentaries.
It's because Eric hates things that are based on a real story.
I don't like real people.
Yeah, that's true. It was really good. I thought that it's about censorship within the American government and an Indian or indigenous community, and I thought that it had almost like the sort of same like kind of feel as of like a boy state, where it's something that you wouldn't know about unless the story was made, and there's a lot of hypocrisy that's going on, and it's about this sort of just small group of journalists trying to fight to keep their publication open against of course the essentially the US government to try to shut them down. And so that was a documentary that I really liked. I know the Judy Blume documentary did really well. A lot of people, I think that's an Amazon pickup that'll be out sooner than later. And then there was the disappearance of gosh, I can never get this right. Of Cher Height. Is that how do you say her name, Eric? It was picked up by Dakota Johnson and her production company as well. Right.
Oh, okay.
And I thought that was fine. There wasn't a lot of documentaries that really, I didn't get time to them. I mean, news alert to anyone doing Sundance or South by Southwest in the future: stop having it correlate with things from the Oscars. We'd really appreciate that, because Kevin and I know this. We had this conversation this week. We couldn't function for a day after.
Could not function the day of the Oscar nominations.
It's ridiculous. There's so much going on. Like, how am I supposed to watch a bunch of indie movies that I'm going to give 2.5 stars to? It's really difficult.
Oh my God. It's no To Leslie.
I think I gave To Leslie 3 stars. I don't think there's some films. Half the films that I saw here are like 2.5, 3, or below.
Have either of you two seen Landscape with Invisible Hand?
No.
I'm really curious what you two would think of it. I won't be surprised if both of you don't like it.
Okay.
Abe reviewed that.
Because I'm really, really torn, like back and forth about that movie. It's also another one with a really, really interesting idea, really cool premise. But I don't think on a writing level it goes as deep as it could have been. But at the end of the day, though, I do applaud Corey Finley for trying something really, really fucking bizarre. And I like Corey Finley a lot. Thoroughbreds was one of my favorite films that year.
I love Thoroughbreds.
Yeah, I love Thoroughbreds. This is much weirder and uncomfortable than that. Like, for those who don't know, Landscape with Invisible Hand is a sci-fi comedy drama that takes place in a world where aliens came and visited us, but instead of taking over or wanting to kill us, they provide their technology and their resources to help better the human race. And then, oops, it causes the entire human race economy to crash. And it's like this metaphor for capitalism and inequality, and like the rich having a whole different set of resources than everyone else does. And it's really, really interesting. And the alien designs are so uncomfortable to look at. As one character from the movie describes it, they look like gooey coffee tables. And I think it was David Ehrlich or someone else who added on top of that and said they look like gooey coffee tables made out of human tongue.
That's a lot.
Out of human barbacoa. There you go.
Yeah, and they have this hysterical way of communicating where they don't talk. They just rub their hands together in a furious way. So they look like they're furiously washing their hands. It's...
Hi, Eric communicates with me all the time.
It's a lot. So
that sounds great.
So like, you should check it out.
That sounds different. for them.
It's very different.
Yeah, that does not. Lastly, there was one little film, and it got a lot of praise of being a sort of a little crowd pleaser, and that was, speaking a little prayer. That is Angus McLean. McLaughlin. Their follow up to
writer of Junebug.
And Junebug.
It's very Junebuggy.
Very Junebuggy. If that's there's two performances I think are like kind of carry over from this festival. It'd probably be David Strathairn in this film, very much like a Bill Nye sort of situation, right, from Living. And then Gil Garcia Bernal feels very like that movie feels very Sony Pictures Classics jockey sort of situation as well, where you're like, you could carry that, like it's time to get him on the award circuit and get him his due, because it's been
I would love that. It would be super cool. I don't know if I would see that happening though. But Sony Pictures Classics did pick up A Little Prayer. So.
They did? Oh well, shit. Never mind. Yeah. There you go.
Well, there you go.
They did. It's funny.
It's a perfect movie for it too, to be honest.
I had some issues with the movie itself.
Yeah.
And I think the score is an abomination. It is absolutely just forcing itself and almost ruining this tiny little movie by giving it this like late 50s, early 60s, like Douglas Sirk kind of melodrama meets like On Golden Pond. It's awful. It is absolutely
there's a lot of
dismal.
Yeah.
But Jane Levy is fantastic.
She's great.
I was about to ask, how is Jane Levy?
She is really, really good. And her accent, fantastic.
Fantastic.
No notes.
No notes.
Celia Weston, icon, legend.
We stand her. Yeah.
She should, get her own, campaigns for everything all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But even if 90% of the movie was mediocre, which it's not, it's good, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing matters, because the last scene in this movie
is incredible.
So A+ beautiful.
Yeah.
Were
you a mess?
Stunned.
Were you messed by the end?
I was very emotional. I was shocked, because I was like, all right, this is fine.
Yeah, I was a little annoyed by the daughter character and some of that
I thought
stuff.
Anna Camp was fucking hilarious.
I was like, okay, there's a little too much of that, but I
love me some Anna Camp being a trashy bitch. Love it.
But I agree with you, Eric. I think that it's like the scene that involves the bench, I believe is what you're referring to.
It's the last scene in the movie.
It is. You're like, oh, okay, now I get why everyone went head over heels for it. Like this wouldn't leave a dry eye in the house. Let's just say that it's
beautifully
really
written, and it is perfectly performed.
And it features the two best performances in the film. So it's kind of just at that point, it's just a character piece between the two of them. And God, it's
and Strathairn had basically been pretty low key in the movie.
Yeah.
He has a few that are exceptional, but oh my God, when we get to that ending, good gravy.
It almost makes you think like he's one of the best actors, still alive when he does stuff like that. And how
I posted my comment on it, and people got very, very excited for him. He has his fans.
He does, and he should have an Oscar, for Christ's sake.
And there's a lot of people that believe that.
Yeah, no,
they thought he was the best performance by a lead male actor in 2005.
Yeah, well, that's
not right, but they think that, and they're allowed to think that.
We are right. we stand a legend. He's fantastic in that movie.
I love David Strathairn.
That's one of those all-time lineups too. To be fair, you could say all of them and Terrence Howard. And you would be.
I love Terrence Howard.
He's really good.
I love Terrence Howard.
I don't want to hear about the crystals and his math theories up on an Oscar stage. Yeah,
no,
1 + 1 = 62 or whatever he believes in. You know what I mean? So
let's just focus on David Strathairn and Levy and how really, really, really good they are. This is a tiny, quiet little movie.
Yeah, and I hope
It's going to end up, with a release like,
Living.
like Living, where it'll be like the Oscar nominations will be out, and then the movie will be released like a week later.
It is nice though to see a family drama, and that Sony Pictures Classics picked up, and it's good. Unlike The Sun.
The bones of Junebug are very much in this.
Yes, and that led to us getting Amy Adams' first Oscar nomination,
where she should have won. Same year too. Oh yeah, she should have won.
Who won that? Oh, Rachel Weisz.
Rachel Weisz.
Yeah, I'm not going to take that away from Rachel Weisz. So
I'm gonna.
I like the Constant Gardner a lot. We're really going to have to do that one day. I think we're going to do that one episode where we're going to go look back at old Oscars and get our opinions on things. That'll be fun.
That's what's coming for 2023 is a whole series on revisiting Oscar years.
Yeah, we're going to do stuff like that. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right. We've talked a lot about Sundance. It's done. It's over. We're not going to talk about it anymore.
I think we probably will. Some of these will.
We're never going to talk about these things again. No,
yes,
never.
We will. Infinity Pool, Best Picture.
Oh God, no. I think that now we have a month to rest. There's going to be a ton of different things that we're going to do within the next couple of months. Obviously, the race is ongoing and continue. We'll have SAG and all the other precursors that happen. But then there's films coming out too, some big releases. 80 for Brady comes out next week. Eric's very excited for that. And you are. You're going to get trashy and go watch that film. That'd be a good time. But then March is going to be, we have the Oscars, we have Indie Spirits, we have South by Southwest. We'll have tons of new things that'll be coming out. BAFTA. So, well, Kevin, can you tell everybody out there where they can find you and all your work?
You can find me on my work at Film Inquiry, Shelf, and AwardsWatch. I'm on Twitter at KLEE_film review.
Go give Kevin a follow and go read his reviews from Sundance. Kevin did a great job. Everybody did a great job, unlike Erik. And speaking of Erik,
I watched 20 movies. That's a lot for me.
Oh, good for you. Can you tell everybody where they can find you, Erik, on the internet?
They know where they can find me.
Okay, then never mind. Let's move on. awardswatch.com.
And at awards_watch on Twitter.
Yes, and where you can see, I think we have a review of 80 for Brady coming up soon. We'll have Knock at the Cabin coming soon this week as well.
I know you can't wait for that.
I'm dying to see Knock at the Cabin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh my
God.
God.
Give me gay horror.
Give me Shyamalan and what is being called one of his best films. It's gotten good reactions so far, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm not going to go crazy about first handpicked reactions that we knew were going to be good. So,
well, I mean, it wasn't just the regular people. It wasn't just the regular people that I'm talking about. There were some people that I was genuinely surprised. And also too, any good reactions from an M. Night Shyamalan movie, regardless, makes me excited.
I liked Old.
Well, I mean, it's got you in the title. You can find me at awardswatch.com.
You can find Ryan McQuade on the unemployment line.
In Session Film, the playlist, Film Speak. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at Ryan McQuade 77. Next week, I think we might be talking about Knock at the Cabin. We might talk about maybe our favorite movie twists, different things that we'll talk about next week. We'll obviously have a decision about to Leslie and a bunch of other stuff going on as well. But maybe we'll never know. But until then, we will see you all next time.